Today on Politics Unplugged, the state Senate president wants her investigated for tipping off constituents to ICE activities. The Attorney General thinks that's just ridiculous. So what does the state senator caught in the middle have to say? We speak with her. Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem said the next Alligator Alcatraz could be headed to Arizona. And should women run for office? One female candidate with a well-known last name doesn't think so. Our panel breaks it all down now on Politics Unplugged.
And good evening, I'm political editor Dennis Welch. This is Politics Unplugged. State lawmaker Annalise Ortiz drew the ire of lawmakers and social media influencers on the right for posting the location of ICE raids on her Instagram account. Senate President Warren Peterson is even asking for a federal investigation. Ortiz is not backing down, however, and she joins us right now to talk about this and maybe a couple of other things if we do get a chance to do that. But let's start at the beginning here. You were alerted that ICE was outside an elementary school in Roosevelt. What did you hear? What did you do next?
Yeah, I simply reshared a post from a community organization that ICE had been spotted lurking outside schools. I think it's just horrible because children should be able to go to school without fear they're going to be separated from their parents. That is speech that is 100% protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah, and that gets into, Senate President Warren Peterson is saying he's calling for a federal investigation into your activities, saying that you're getting in the way of these agents carrying out their duties. What do you say to that?
It's absolutely ridiculous and a politically motivated attack. It's an escalation of their willingness to weaponize the courts to go after political opponents. Arizonans should be able to know what is happening in our communities and how federal agents are acting on our behalf.
Yeah. And what do you say to folks who push back and they'd say, well, look, these are agents, they're carrying out the job that they were hired to do. And they should be able to carry out those duties without people getting in their way.
I am not condoning violence in any way or obstruction in any way. This is simply about giving the community information about things that they can see when they're driving down the street and seeing that there are masked men jumping out of vehicles armed and violating the Constitution. Look, these agents are under extreme pressure to meet quotas, and that has led to mistakes, including detentions of United States citizens and lawful permanent residents. It is incredibly important that we know what is going on. And who even knows if these masked men are there on behalf of the federal government, because there have been people impersonating law enforcement as well. We all have a right to know this information to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, and we can get into the details a little bit more on that, but I do want to, have you had any conversations with the Senate president since he called for this investigation?
I have not.
And have you heard anything from the Attorney General on this other than what she has posted on her social media accounts and whatnot?
I was grateful to see what the Attorney General posted on her social media accounts. I think she understands the law through and through, that this is 100% protected speech, no different than using the Waze app to alert people of a speed trap or posting on Nextdoor that there's a police helicopter roaming above. I think we've all seen those posts on Nextdoor.
And is there a better way you think ICE should be carrying these types of operations out? Again, you look back just November, I mean, the voters were pretty clear. They voted for a president in these policies. He voted, the voters voted for a man who was running under mass deportations. So that is something that the voters did want. What would you like to see, and how would you like to see ICE change up what they're doing?
Polling consistently shows that voters are rapidly rejecting these approaches that include going after people who are green card holders, United States citizens, waiting outside schools to detain parents as they're walking their kids to school. The public does not support that, and they especially do not support ICE agents without warrants or not showing badges, questioning people based on the color of their skin, and that's happening all across this country. So in my view, we need to make it known when those stories are happening so people know how the government is acting on their behalf and can make sure we are protected from these authoritarian measures.
And let's talk a little bit about, you brought up the masked agents out there. A lot of attention has been given to that, about these folks. They cover their faces. Some would say that, it would maybe blocks their accountability because we don't know who these folks are. The other side says, look, these agents need to be protected, that people could be, sharing their information, that these agents have families and whatnot. What do you say to that?
Local law enforcement, judges, politicians who all have risky jobs are able to do our jobs with full transparency and accountability, and there are proper processes in place to protect ourselves and our families. These masks are nothing more than a way to intimidate people and to skirt accountability. It's wrong, and we need transparency from these agents. I have seen those masked agents outside the immigration courthouse. I asked for a warrant and to see a badge. They just ignored me. This is not the type of activity that we should be seeing in the United States of America.
And again, you have no intention of changing up your strategy, because then again, this is not the first time you've used your social media accounts to alert constituents and the public to where these ICE agents are, correct?
It is important to me to continue sharing publicly available factual information about what the government is doing in our communities in plain sight. All
right, let's stick with immigration. Let's talk a little bit about, we saw some news there about the next Alligator Alcatraz, maybe coming here to Arizona. This, the speculation now is comes after Kristi Noem's comments, and it comes after Arizona just sold a shuttered prison for $15 million down near Tucson. It was the Marana prison out there. She sold it for the state sold it for $15 million. Speculation is that could be the next ICE detention center. What do you think about that?
It's horrifying. This kind of these authoritarian measures should not be welcomed in the state of Arizona, and I am disappointed that the Hobbs administration made that sale to this entity that has had a history of running these types of facilities. When we have these federal detention centers committing human rights abuses, medical neglect, refusing to let Congress people like Yasemin Ansari inside to do their congressional duty of oversight, why are we rewarding them with another place for them to commit more abuses against people? It's wrong, and I frankly think that sale should have never happened.
And let's wrap up on this, because what the Hobbs administration is saying is this is good fiscal policy, that it was costing the state $400,000 a year just to maintain this building. They sold it for $15 million. They're making some money, and that $15 million can go and address other issues like feeding veterans, people experiencing homelessness. What do you say to that?
The very building itself could have gone to those more positive things that our community needs. Our communities need investment in affordable housing, education, healthcare. It's really heartbreaking to know that there are towns where their entire economy is based off the incarceration of other people and the human rights abuses that go on inside these detention centers without accountability. Let's think about the world that we can build that's built on compassion and love for one another, not this dark moment in history that we're in.
All right, we'll have to wrap it right there. Thank you very much, Senator Annalise Ortiz, stopping by here. And up next, I'll be bringing in our panel to talk about all of this week's major headlines, including the possibility of another ICE detention facility here in Arizona. That's next on Politics Unplugged.
It's time for your political roundup, a quick look at the stories driving politics in Arizona and the country. We begin with President Donald Trump changing his tune. The commander-in-chief said he might not run for a third term. Although the Constitution bans anyone from serving as president more than twice, Trump had previously declined to rule out another run. Speaking of the presidency, Senator Ruben Gallego looks like a politician who wants the job real bad. Ahead of his trip to Iowa this week, the Arizona senator declared Iowa deserves leaders who will fight for them in an op-ed he wrote for the state's largest newspaper. The top two Republicans running for governor are weighing in on the so-called Epstein files. Congressman Andy Biggs and businesswoman Karen Taylor Robeson are in lockstep with Trump over releasing the government files on disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. All of them blame Democrats for keeping the documents under wraps during prior administrations. Andy Biggs wasn't the only Biggs making news this week. His daughter, Miley Biggs, is running for the state Senate after telling a podcaster last year that women shouldn't run for office. And finally, could the next Alligator Alcatraz be headed to Arizona? Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem said she's looking at the controversial immigration detention center in Florida as a model for other states. Noem said sites in Nebraska, Louisiana, and Arizona are under consideration.
And let's bring in our panel, Republican political consultant Marcus DeLartino and Democratic political consultant Roy Herrera. Let's start with Alligator Alcatraz. You heard Senator Ortiz saying that she was disappointed in the Hobbs administration for selling the Marana prison, which is speculation that the next Alligator Alcatraz or ICE detention center could go there. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we can't name it Alligator Alcatraz in Arizona. We're going to have to come up with a cute new name.
Rattlesnake Alley, maybe, or something?
something that reflects Arizona, certainly. You know, I think that I see how the speculation gets there, right? The private operator who purchased this is also the private operator who's running Alligator Alley. At the same time, she's said, the governor has said, there in no way are we going to participate in that program. However, I would think that the way this is being set up, there is a way for that private operator to have that type of facility in Arizona without having to get consent from the governor.
Well, the governor's office is telling you it's now owned by somebody else. They don't have any say in what they do in that. What are Democrats thinking about this governor? I mean, obviously you can't disconnect what she's doing in office now from her reelect. Is politics, what kind of politics is playing into this?
Well, I think Democrats and Arizonans, for that matter, don't want to see an Alligator Alcatraz here in Arizona. I mean, we are already seeing, the reports of human rights abuses in Florida. There's a former worker there saying that the people that are being detained are treated like animals. Yeah. So certainly we don't want that here. And I'm also reminded of the fact that, the sort of ghost of Arpaio in Tent City here, which is something that Arizonans, by rejecting him, I think they, by extension, rejected Tent City. So I don't think that that's what we want. Now, it is speculation on what's going to happen with this, so we don't know exactly if there's any.
But if that was the bear out, if that was the next ICE detention site in Arizona, you think Democrats are going to buy that this was good fiscal policy on the part of the governor of the state?
I think it would certainly be disappointing if this sale was done with an eye towards that being turned into, an immigration detention facility like Alligator Alcatraz.
All right, let's turn now. Let's talk about President Donald Trump. Changed his tune a little bit. He kept, saying he might run for a third. To be clear, the Constitution very clearly says nobody can run for more. They can serve more than twice. But this is a president, obviously, who doesn't really care a lot about those kinds of rules.
Well, I think the record would reflect that he's comfortable going to the Supreme Court to have them make the decision.
Yeah, there we go. That's maybe a better way to put that. But it's interesting. The political ramifications, though, for saying something like that could be significant when you start looking at, later in the administration. People might look at him as like, this is maybe a little lame duckish at this point.
Well, that's certainly not anything he's afraid of. I think the record reflects that. I do think it's a little bit strange. Most other presidents probably would have waited until after the midterms to say something like that. But he's very comfortable in his own shoes to be able to tell people, I'm not running. And then, you have sort of these people who are going to end up duking it out for the next 3 years to be who's the next successor.
Yeah, and do you think, a lot of people also suspect and expect that the president will go back and forth on this many times over the next few years?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if he changes his mind. And to be clear, as you say, it is not allowed under the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. Now, I don't know how many times, probably never.
Even though people like Steve Bannon says he's got teams of people looking at this.
Yeah, Trump has actually read the Constitution himself. Just witness him declaring a mid-decade census, which is also unconstitutional, earlier this week. But I think he's probably going to change his mind depending on whatever the political winds are. And I would also notice that he didn't exactly say that J.D. Vance, his vice president, was going to be a successor. He just sort of punted on that, essentially.
All right, and also, again, speaking of the presidency, let's talk a little bit about Senator Ruben Gallego. He's giving up every appearance as somebody who is really looking at making a run in 2028, or at least putting himself in a position to make that jump if the opportunity presents itself. He's in Iowa this week, and before he went there, he published an op-ed in the Des Moines Register, the state's largest newspaper, and the headline was, Iowans deserve someone that fights for them. That's interesting that the Arizona senator would tell Iowans that they need someone to fight for them. Your thoughts on him being in Iowa this week?
Well, he's certainly working overtime to get his name out there as a candidate for president of the United States. And politicos all over Arizona are tongue-wagging over this Des Moines story. I don't think it's any secret that, Ruben has big aspirations. I do think, it's a sign of the Democratic Party having to make adjustments. He knows that their old messaging did not work. And so he's adjusted to sort of get his messaging to appeal to a broader base of voters. The irony, of course, for me is that when he ran for Senate, basically getting rid of Kyrsten Sinema, it was that she's too much in the middle, she's not progressive enough, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now the entire Democratic Party is having to make a shift in their messaging.
All right, and you are the attorney for Ruben Gallego's campaign. You have any insight you want to share?
Well, I mean, I think to Marcus's point, I mean, I think the messaging that he used in this last Senate campaign did work. Obviously, he won in a very, very difficult year. And I think it's that kind of messaging, that kind of path to victory he's going to take to Iowa, which has a Senate seat open, you know, with Joni Ernst running for re-election. I'm sure he's going to talk about her vote about the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a quick break there. And when we come back up next, a woman running for public office says she isn't sure women should actually hold public office. That's next on Politics Unplugged. And to get more in-depth on the issues, check out the Politics Unplugged podcast. This week, I'm joined by Danny Seiden, president of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. Politics Unplugged podcast drops every Sunday evening wherever you get your podcasts. And we're bringing back the panels. Thanks for sticking around for another segment. Let's get into the gubernatorial race real quick. I want to talk about the Republican side. Andy Biggs, Karen Taylor Robson, they both seem to appear in lockstep with the president over the release of the Epstein files. Is there any difference between?
It's like, where's the question?
Is there any difference between Biggs and Karen Taylor Robson at this point? They're both endorsed by him. They're both supporting everything that the president does.
Well, I mean, that's the whole purpose of a primary campaign, and we got a long way to go to figure out what those differences are. I don't think it's going to, because they're both have the same position on the Epstein files, clearly it's not going to hurt them in the primary. Mm-hmm. I do think this comes back in the general election. And the problem with this story is it's bifurcating the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. On the most conservative members are not in agreement on what we should be doing with the Epstein files, and so it is causing a problem for the Republican Party, and unfortunately it's the gift that keeps on giving for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and initially it seemed like it was going to create more political damage for Donald Trump, but it seems like he's starting to get people back on his side and defending him. What are you seeing?
So I'm not sure about that. I mean, I do think that the congressional Republicans, I mean, mind you, this is a flip-flop. I mean, President Trump and congressional Republicans before this past election said they wanted to release the Epstein files, and he would do that when he was in office. Obviously, that's not the case. He's been able to get congressional Republicans to do what he wants on this issue. But when I look at polling, it's one of those things where this is one of the few things where all agree across the political spectrum, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, that the release of the Epstein files should happen. So I'm not sure, actually, it saves him politically. I think there's going to be a lot of criticism when we get into the election next year of like an Andy Biggs on why did you change your mind about this, because we do want the files to be released.
All right, it's a good transition, because speaking of Andy Biggs, again, not the only Biggs making news this week. His daughter, Miley Biggs, 25-year-old young woman, she is running for the state Senate. To represent the same area that her father did for many years. And she was on a podcast about a year ago, and she had mentioned that she doesn't think that women should actually hold public office. That's resurfaced now this past week. Some thoughts from you about how this maybe affects her politically?
Well, I think she may have changed her mind in the last year.
Well, I think she's not explained why that she's pulled the 180. She goes from saying that she's not sure whether she could vote for a woman or whether she would serve in office. She hasn't explained why she's changed, but does this carry any political risk?
Well, I'm sure it'll come up during the course of the campaign, but let me just say right now she's the only announced candidate for that particular Senate seat, so how much trouble is she really in until the real question here is, does this story generate another candidate? Mm-hmm. And so we have to wait and see how that plays out. If it does, obviously that messaging will be used primarily with women, and I think it will have an effect.
Well, it generated another candidate or not, but you can't buy this kind of media exposure. She is getting a lot of attention, probably more attention than any Senate candidate right now is getting in this cycle. I mean, and to be clear, this is not a district that Democrats can hope to pick up. This is out in the East Valley.
That's right. I mean, obviously the statement that women shouldn't serve in office is a deeply offensive statement, and I think a lot of people are going to believe that. I'm curious to see when she actually does speak about this, whether she, admits that she's changed her mind. I mean, she's literally changed her mind if she's running for office. And I will note, I mean, there is an element of the, let's say, the far right, and I'm not saying this is her necessarily, but that would probably believe that women shouldn't be elected to public office. In fact, there's probably some folks that believe that women shouldn't even vote. I mean, I've seen that from some elements of the far right. So I don't think it necessarily hurts her on the Republican side, but certainly I think it is a tarnishing the Republican, image with independent voters who would be offended by this.
Yeah, and this is one of those things, though, you could see where Democrats maybe try to brand the entire Republican Party. Like, they take somebody who says something like this and then they try to brand the entire GOP this way, correct?
Yeah, Karen Taylor Robson's clearly going to get this question from somebody in the media at some point. So she's got to be prepared to answer it, as well as every other female candidate in the Republican side that's out there has to be prepared to answer this question. What I think is also interesting about this story is she does work for Turning Point. Turning Point is de facto the Republican Party in Arizona. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are sort of almost gone at this point, and these other organizations have been stepped up to take their place, and they're clearly out recruiting candidates is what their job is. And I think that she was an easy candidate to recruit because she works for them, number one, and then number two, she lives in the district and it's the Big's last name. So.
Yeah. And Turning Point seems like it's one of those. This is one of those groups that has really taken over the Republican Party. I mean, if you start looking at their activities, they're running candidates in a lot of different races, supporting them. They've got a significant amount of influence right now in Arizona politics, right?
It certainly seems that way. I mean, they're doing a lot of what the infrastructure of the old Republican Party would do, and certainly they're very close to Trump. But they are completely aligned with Andy Biggs, and so I think next year's primary, Republican gubernatorial primary, is going to be a real test about their influence and power within the Republican Party, given that Robeson does not have their support. So that's going to be very fascinating next year.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken a lot about that. I mean, Andy Biggs doesn't have the money that Karen Taylor Robeson ostensibly has. I mean, the big question going into the governor's race is just how deep into her own pockets is Karen Taylor Robeson going to dig into to run again. She has already spent millions of dollars to try to get this job. She has not succeeded as of yet. But Turning Point is a big ally for Andy Biggs, correct? Yeah,
we've been saying this for months. I mean, ever since the news broke that, of course, Karen Taylor Robeson was going to be able to raise more money. We knew that ahead of time. But it's somewhat a moot point because Turning Point then steps in as the fundraising arm for Andy Biggs. Yeah. And so then those two fundraising goals are sort of on par, if you will. And so then it's just going to become a dogfight of who's a better candidate.
Yeah, and when he starts coming down to that, I mean, in a general election, if Andy Biggs was to go, win that, or I'm assuming Turning Point would be involved in a general election anyway. I mean, does the Democrats, do they even have the kind of ground game right now to match something like that? Because all we've seen from Democrats this off cycle is just a lot of chaos.
Well, obviously, there's been some chaos at the state party, and I think we're on the road to fixing that now with the new chairperson. But either way, I think Governor Hobbs is going to have all the resources in the world that she needs in next year as far as the fundraising goes and building out that operation. I mean, she's already breaking records on fundraising, and I think she's probably going to raise more money than any Democrat ever has before for governor next year. So I don't think that's really a worry on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and if it is Andy Biggs, I mean, Andy Biggs has got to get through this primary too. Has he ever shown that he can really raise any significant amount of money?
No, but again, he doesn't have to if he's got Turning Point who's doing the job for him. So, look, he's going to be out making phone calls, but it's just not, he was far more comfortable being on the stump than he is making the fundraising phone calls.
All right, we're going to have to wrap it right there. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. That is all the time we have this week, but be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.